It's time for...
Name That Pitch!
Yes, Name That Pitch, the game show where we look behind the headlines to see the magic of public relations at work in our daily lives.
Okay, on today's episode, we're going to look at 3 stories from news websites, including the Washington Post, and try to figure out what the public relations pitch was that got this company mentioned in the press. Now, these 3 examples are probably from professional public relations agencies, but if you learn how they work, you can do it yourself. So the first is from the Washington Post. It's a travel article called "This is Everywhere You Should Be Sanitizing Your Hotel." So it's not immediately clear what company is behind this article. Now, of course, I don't know, and maybe there isn't a company behind this article, but as you become more savvy in doing public relations for yourself, you should start to see where companies are probably at work getting themselves mentioned in the media. So this article is about an important topic for people who are traveling during COVID-19. So the title is definitely an attention getter. This is everywhere you should be sanitizing in your hotel. So if we look at the article, it now has some basics about, how hotels are adapting to the World Health Organization guidelines and so forth. And then down here in the middle of the article, we have this quote. It says, "You don't know where previous hotel guests come from," says Adrian Heisler, the chief medical officer of Helix International, a company that specializes in international security, medical, and travel assistance services. So I'm going to make a guess. This article exists because somebody representing Helix International reached out to the Washington Post and said, "Hey, I have an idea for an article. It's called How to Sanitize Your Hotel Room." And voila, you have this article. So what's important, so that's my guess at what happened here. What's important to understand here from the perspective of public relations is they're not calling the Washington Post saying, "Hey, I want to tell you about Helix International. That's boring. Nobody wants to hear about this company." What the Washington Post is interested in is what their readers are interested in, which is, I want to travel and I want to stay safe. So my guess is the company came up with a pitch that was oriented towards travel safety, and they then got to work themselves in to this article. So why did they do it? Perhaps to show that they have credibility in the marketplace because they're quoted by the Washington Post, and also this helps with their search engine results. Now here's another article. This is from the Coast News, which is a Rancho Santa Fe, a sort of local news magazine, you might call it, where a company called Oceanside Abbey Carpet and Floor has landed an article about itself. Now this is an article that was probably placed in the magazine, so it's like less of a pitching threshold than getting yourself in the Washington Post, but it's still a good example of how an article can be pitched to the press, because the title is very significant. It says, "Beautify your home with new flooring." It's not called "Get New Flooring." It's not called, learn about Oceanside Abbey Carpet and Floor. It's about beautifying your home. What they've done is they framed their company's service in terms of what the customer gets out of it and what the readers of Coast News Group get out of it. It's about delivering value to the audience. It's about the Coast News Group presenting something that's interesting to the readers that happens to promote the flooring company. The final one is an interesting example of a public affairs, public relations. It's sort of like the Washington Post story, but it's a little more serious. This is from Yahoo News, reporting for the BBC. So this was run on the BBC. So that's a very high bar to reach if you're trying to get your company covered in the news. So the title is "McDonald's Among Food Firms Urging Tougher Deforestation Rules." So the news here really has to do with the issue of environmentalism in the restaurant business, which is a big topic, and a lot of consumers are very concerned about this, and McDonald's, as being one of the biggest and most high-profile food service companies in the world is a very big target for critics of the restaurant industry who claim that they're harming the environment. So McDonald's wants to position itself as being on the right side of this issue. So again, I don't know for sure what happened here, but I'm pretty sure that McDonald's public relations representatives reached out to the BBC with this story that McDonald's was taking the lead on this important environmental issue. It puts the company in a good light. It allows them to say we're dealing with this issue. But again, it's not really, the article is not just about McDonald's. McDonald's is getting in the press, in the media here, by putting themselves into an important public issue. And so the article talks about how, the whole industry is doing this, and the firms are suggesting a new law for this. And they have a quote by an executive from McDonald's. And these are three examples of pitches at work, and hopefully you've learned something about pitching the media from looking at these three examples. And I hope you'll join us again soon for another episode of Name That Pitch.